stage for your own. I will get off and you have the shovel yourself. The other thing is, you see here some of the microphones all over the place. So if people have questions, they will be there and you will probably need to spot for the answers. So, good luck with that and have fun!
Thank you, sir. This is my guy. Hello.
Hello.
Big group of people here today. Thank you for welcoming Mira and myself here.
After a very rough night, I mean...
No.
You guys can really party.
I was going to say, you're a bunch of party animals. What's going on? You kept her awake all
right. Unfortunately, my room was just above I guess, the speaker, the bass. So, no sleep for me. And then also, I have to complain. Sorry.
Complain to somebody, so
the
you're
complaining spirit. So no sleep and no eating also, because all the restaurants have certain times when they open, so you can't get anything outside of the prescribed schedule. All right, so that's my complaint.
Yeah, it wasn't like that on Babylon 5, was it? We had the best eating.
I know.
In fact, they had to let out my uniform as the year went on. Most of the guys, we had some incredible food on that set every day.
I won't be that grumpy, I promise, but you know, I have to overcome my grumpiness this morning, and
I find it very appealing.
Thank you, Bruce. I don't know if you find it that appealing.
So I think, what do you say, Mira? Let's just open it up to the people here, and if they have questions they want to ask.
I can't agree more.
Okay. Yes, who wants to start it off?
Hello, Mira.
Hello.
Bruce. Nice to have you here. I just wanted to say to Bruce, you are one of my early heroes, next to William Shatner and David Hasselhoff.
Mira just asked me who.
Who's the third one? I know William.
The Hoff, David Hasselhoff. I hear he's pretty popular here in Germany. Don't give him any beer. I saw that video. And William Shatner, thank you.
You're welcome.
That's a good comparison because, you know, I think we can all admit, I mean, William Shatner created the captain of a starship, that he created the template, which we all, whoever did it afterwards, had to measure up to. So,
And
thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And I rewatched Babylon 5 1 year ago, and it is from the story very timeless, I think, nowadays.
Yes.
Because the themes, politics, war, freedom. So Babylon 5, really a good series. You did such a beautiful job of this.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And
Well, you know,
yes.
my co-star here carried a great deal of it. She had to wear the bone, you know, so I didn't have half the burden that Mira did. Huh?
Nobody knows the troubles.
I often tell those stories. I always tell the story that Mira and Billy Boomey and Andreas, Peter, all of the people that played the alien races, they had to be in those early morning hours. I'm sure you can. And me, I would just waltz in and see if we had to be ready for camera at 7 o'clock in the morning. I waltzed in about 6:45.
I waltzed in at 4.
She'd already been up a whole day, so, but,
Do you think that there will be some continuation of Babylon 5 in some kind of media, TV, cinema, or perhaps even a reboot, as they do on Star Trek? And if yes, which actors would you like to choose to play younger versions of Captain Sheridan and
What a lovely question.
No.
Well, if I had to pick, it wouldn't be Ryan Gosling. No, I don't like to put other actors down much. But, I don't know, who would you have to play you? I don't, you know, so far,
The best.
and I don't want to be a bad guy here, but I guess if they did something and they wanted to make us have an appearance in it, I just don't think the time right now. I think, you know, maybe 15 years ago would have been a better time. You know, many of these reboots just don't work, folks. They're just not. You can't. It's capturing lightning in a bottle. Do you know what I'm saying by that? It was the time. It was the place. It was the people. More importantly, Mira, I think you agree. You know, we were missing so many of our fellow cast members. That's what it's like. I've told you before. It's very difficult for me to watch it anymore. But can you recapture that with a whole new group of people? I don't know. We've had one spin-off after another, and didn't seem to light that fire that the original series had. That's just my opinion, folks. So when I see this, well, that's what makes it very special, you know. I mean, I think every actor that comes here would say the same thing. It's hard to recapture that with other personalities. So that's why I think a lot of these reboots fail. It's just not quite the same. Star Trek has been very, very different. It's very fortunate, you know. But who knows? Then again, I'm such a whore. If they said, Bruce, come back for $50 million, I would do it. 50 million, wow.
Hi, Mira, it's great to see you. Waiting for this moment 10 years. Thank you for that. Well, one of my favorite scenes was the episode in season 2, right before Sheridan flies to the Shadow Planet. Thank you for this. And my question is to both of you. I saw you in the Navy's NCIS series, and Bruce, you were 2 episodes in there. How was the cast, and how was it to shoot the episodes?
Well, NCIS is an absolute juggernaut. It just keeps going. They're into their 17th season, I think. I mean, either in it right now or about to. 17th or 18th. And you know why? Because the star of that show, Mark Harmon, the leader of it, is just a wonderful gentleman. And he is a very tight-knit crew and cast. And good stories, you know. It seems that the public loves it. So my experience was very good. I played Admiral Chase twice, and I had a wonderful time doing it. Mark's a real gentleman. He's the star of the show, and the first day I arrived, he walked up like an assistant director and asked, "Would you like something, Bruce? Can I get you a coffee?" Very few stars in the series will go and get you a coffee, I guarantee you. So that's how it started. That kind of welcome.
It was a kind scent.
Yes.
It was a kind scent, and what impressed me was that they did a table read. I mean, when do you get to do that? So you know, it was a very serious kind of approach to what we do. I mean, I had, you know, they asked me before they hired me if I knew how to ride horses. And I said, well, I mean, you know, I've been on a horse. I mean, I can do the basic stuff. And they said, yeah, no, it's gonna be totally basic. I mean, just like, you know, I mean, you just get there and, you know, the stunts are gonna do the hard stuff. So I took, when I was hired, I took a couple of lessons, you know, horse riding lessons. And I thought, good, I'm you know, for basic stuff, I'm okay. Well, I come to the set, and the horse starts galloping like crazy over some boulders, huge boulders. I mean, I I was freaking out, I have to say. I was scared. I mean, I know you can't really feel for me because
Mira, if I was there, I would sing.
I know. But I imagine you as this incredible writer. I've never seen you, but I know that you are a passionate cowboy. Anyway, so that was a big challenge. But otherwise, it was a very, very pleasant set, which is rare.
Yes, yes.
Babylon 5 was a pleasant set,
Yes.
a calm set, and I'll never forget when Doug Netter said once, I mean, I clearly remember that sentence when he said, "No screamers on my set." And I so appreciate it because when there is abuse and screaming and power games played all the time, it's really painful and somehow makes me don't want to even be in the profession. That's how I feel. It's my take.
Well, that's what we had, wonderful personalities at Babylon 5, and everyone seemed to be pulling for the other one.
That is true.
We had a great ensemble. It's hard, and going back to what I said earlier, it's hard to reproduce that. It's something that's magic, and it can be gotten once.
But I mean, really, we no competitive spirit, no. I mean, none of that. We were really a good bunch. I mean, a good team, kind of. And that shows even now, because we stayed friends. And I can't say that for anything that I've done in my whole life, even in my former life in Yugoslavia.
I agree. We're still all friends.
Yeah, it's really strange and beautiful.
Thank you. And Bruce, I love your voice.
What about my voice? I'm competitive, you see.
Yes.
Hello.
Hello.
So I was wondering, during the entire time that Dylan and Sheridan, of course, had, what human tradition would have confused Dylan the most? Because I was considering, like, Easter, hiding chocolate eggs because some guy got reborn a while ago.
I'll let you handle it.
Oh. Wait, your question is what human traditions? You mean human traditions, you mean Christian traditions?
Like, overall, just
overall. I mean, it's
superstitions.
such a broad question.
What would have confused Dylan?
I mean,
Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
and was confused about many things.
Well, she came out of a cocoon. She was confused to begin with.
Even like how to comb her hair was confusing, so.
She was confused. Imagine Sheridan's confusion.
Yeah, oh my God.
Where is the ambassador? She's in there. Oh,
I know.
I remember that.
Right. So, yeah, I don't know. Should we elaborate on all that? I don't think so.
That's a tough question.
I know.
All right. Thank you anyway.
We'll get back to you on that when we do our research
We'll
on
think.
human traditions as such.
Who else? Way up there.
Hi.
Hello.
Yeah, it's often discussed that Babylon 5 touches a lot of subjects that implement, that are reflection of what is happening in the world. And
Wait, where is this question?
I'm up here,
Okay.
on the balcony.
Can you see her? I'll see her for you.
All right.
Thank you. So,
Tell me all about her.
like politics and touchy subjects are easy to implement in sci-fi.
Yeah.
Because they're alien races, alien societies, so you can portray real-life situations and not have to mention the actual conflicts,
Yes.
like GMS implementing the situation in Yugoslavia and
Sure.
sort of use that. Do you think that sci-fi is an ideal medium to touch delicate subjects?
Yes, I do. I think so. You got to remember when you look back on Babylon 5, it was so 90s, but yet it was so universal, and that's what good drama is. I could go back to Shakespeare. I took many writings, right, that were written in a certain time, reflecting that time, but speaks to all human experience, all times. And Joe was, very much a history buff, and so he incorporated a lot of events from the past that could be relevant in his story. And we had many things like that.
I mean, it was so universal in the way he dealt with society, politics, oh, that's where you are. Okay.
Mira,
my imagination didn't go that far.
Ladies and gentlemen, Mira just arrived.
I'm a little exhausted because of your party. Here it comes.
Just kept you up all night.
I know.
It's terrible.
Now, what do you want from us? No, I mean, I think, science fiction creates this parallel world where you can actually talk very sincerely and very truly about our world. And all good science fiction does that.
Yes,
it's always about us now, right? So yeah, I think Babylon 5 did that very much.
Does that answer it?
Yes, thank you.
Good. And where else?
We're also here.
Over there. Hello.
Yeah, and we actually have a question about Tron, so Bruce, this is just for you. And because the identity discs obviously de-res other programs, and my lovely girlfriend here was wondering, because Ram kept tossing his disc in his cell, if you caught your own disc the wrong way, would your own disc de-res you? Or because it bounces off of the cell wall, so if you're you don't know where it is and suddenly it's hit you in the head from behind or something and then you're gone. Is that a thing that would happen, or?
You have to remember I shot that movie in 1981.
We know, but
Hold on. My disc was a Frisbee.
We know.
I don't think a Frisbee is going to take your hand off. I left that up to the computer animation, left that to them. But, interesting questions you gave me. I'll have to get back to you. Did you like the original Tron movie?
Yes.
And Legacy as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
We would have wished for more Tron instead of Brinsley.
Well, I hear you.
But,
Yes.
yes.
I hear you. Don't worry. Well, I'll tell the Disney people all about that, okay? I'm sure they'll listen. Another unique experience, because I got to work. I didn't really work with Peter Jurasik, but I certainly got to work with him in Babylon 5. And, Peter made an appearance in Tron, and then Jeff Bridges de-resed him. So, I'm glad to see you young people there are big fans of it. It's such an amazing thing to me, because it was a movie that I did, and it kind of came out and people didn't know what to make of it. We didn't have home computers, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have these things, and it was speaking to a world that would soon have that. It was a little ahead of its time, and it didn't do very well at the box office, and it took 28 years for someone to come up with a sequel to it, which was Tron Legacy. And it was, frankly, it was a bunch of boys that grew up to make their own Tron movie. That's what it was. Fanboys. And so I was just happy to be included in it. They didn't need to. Jeff has been a movie star all of his career, so obviously I know that. And I love him like my brother. And that movie too, that story spoke to something in a cute little science fiction world inside of a video game. But but it was predicting the world that we're living in. And that's why it's still relevant to this day. We still talk about Tron, a bomb from 1982, you know? Once that came out, I thought I had a film career. When that bombed, I said, I'm going back to television. That's it, I don't have a film career. So. But anyway, thank you for being a fan.
You're welcome, but we actually have a second question.
Go for
it's
it.
Gonna be as stupid as the first one, I promise. So, Ram died in Tron, the original movie, and when Flint told Tron kind of looked sad for about a second, and that was it. And why was there not more? Because like Tron and Ram fought together in the Disc Wars, Ram taught Tron everything he knew, so like, there's a second of sadness, and then there's like, but there's Yori.
Well, then there was Yori, that's why.
That's sad.
No, it was tough there on the grid. Okay?
Fair enough, fair
you
enough.
know, we were losing warriors all the time. So, Tron was a battle-hardened video game warrior. Okay, what can I tell you? And he was the best on the grid. You can argue with that?
No, fair enough, thank you.
So I'll come up and take that disc from you and show you how to do res. Anyway, thank you for being fans, you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you for asking.
All right.
Hello and welcome to FedCon. My question is not about Babylon 5 and not about Tron, because I think most questions are already answered. It's something completely different, and it's for both of you. If you would be a director of a movie and could choose every actor you want, there was no financial limits, what movie would you create?
Current movie? A current what movie?
I asked what movie would you create as a director?
Oh, as a director?
Yeah.
Of current films that are out right now?
No, you mean
if you want to be a director, I mean, what would you do right now?
You mean what existing movie? An existing
No, my
what,
question was, if you both were a director to create a movie, and you could make every movie you want with every actor, and there is no financial limits, what would you create?
So what? I mean, like, you know, I wrote a couple of screenplays, so I mean, yes, I have all kinds of ideas. They're mainly, you know, stories about ordinary people, not superheroes, right? I dwell in that realm, you know, and those stories interest me in my real life. Yeah, okay. What about you, Bruce?
Well, I think what first comes to mind is that I had two books back in the 90s, back during Babylon 5, Frontier Earth, Frontier Earth Searcher. I tried to shop them around Hollywood at the time. No one was interested. That's why I never got to do any more for the publishing company for HarperCollins. But I would love to have seen that come to fruition instead of the terrible film Cowboys and Aliens. No, that was Harrison Ford and Daniel Craig. They had a great cast.
Wasn't Cowboys and Aliens, wasn't that directed by Clint Eastwood?
No.
No.
No, I might have been better. No, I don't know, but that's one I would have still wanted to do if I was director. And if Sergio Leone was alive, I'd have him do it. Does anyone know who Sergio Leone was? Okay. But, no, I think that'd be about it. I would not do any superhero movies. Ooh. We've got enough of those.
We are disappointing.
Anyway, does that answer your question?
Yes,
Okay.
thanks and have a good time.
Thank you. I do too, by the way.
I watched Babylon 5 as a teenager, and I just rewatched it very recently, and I thought, wow. Because I work in international relations. I work on China, and I thought this is just so up to date. And watching Dylan now was such an inspiration and such an example to follow. And then yesterday I went to your panel, and you said the sentence, as an immigrant, you never belong anymore, but there's freedom in this free feeling. And I'm an immigrant myself. I came to Germany when I was 11. I'm from Russia originally. I'm terrible in trying to explain my work in Russian. But I never thought about this thing of freedom. And I wanted to ask you if you would play Dylan today, and if Babylon 5 would be done today with all that's going on in the world, how would you play her?
Well, I mean, she, you know, she's a character that tries to cross the borders, you know, cross the misunderstandings, to overcome the misunderstandings, to actually sacrifices her own physical self, right, in order to create this path between warring races. I mean, it's so incredibly important right now to think in that way and not create more hostilities in this world. Because, you know, especially because, you know, with all the amount of nuclear weapons around us, I mean, you know, they're enough to destroy Earth how many times? 100 times? I mean, what are we really on the edge of total destruction. I mean, it's very scary in many, many ways. So, you know, I don't know, your question, okay, if I played her today, she would be even more of a revolutionary and a political activist, all right?
Thank you.
Hello. I would like to watch Babylon 5 in high definition. Do you think we have a possibility to get it on Blu-ray? And the second question, why did you wear a beard in the 5th season? I think you look much younger without beard.
First question. I'm not kidding. I believe what I've heard about why there is no Blu-ray release of Babylon 5 is the expense that would be needed to reproduce all of those effects shots, all of the animation, all the spaceships, the space battles, the nebula, all that stuff. I think we could certainly they could do the parts that Mira and I are in, but that's what I understand, because I've been asked this before, and it's just be a very expensive process to go back over all the effect shots of the 5 seasons and the movies and things like that, so nobody's willing to put out that kind of money, I guess. I still think just the DVD, the old girl looks pretty good, you know? It still looks pretty good. I mean,
I'm not a technological person.
and why Mira wore a beard? No, why I wore a beard? Well, because J. Michael Straczynski wore a beard. And if you'll notice, it was John Sheridan, Jeffrey Sinclair. There was a little JS thing there, John Sheridan, Joe Straczynski. And after the second episode of when I was with the Inquisitor, if you remember that, he said, please don't shave anymore. I want you to grow a beard. Would you grow a beard? I said, yeah, I'll grow my beard. And I think it was just to further my look as aging. I think that, and it was legitimate. I mean, it gave me a different look and a more mature look than I'm sporting right now. So, I just feel like a kid again. But if I grew my beard now, I would look like Santa Claus. But anyway, that's all. Thank you for asking.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Oh,
hi. I have a question, especially for Mr. Boxleitner.
Yes.
You did some voice acting, for example, in Tron Uprising. Is there any difference between voice acting and real acting? And what is more difficult?
well, the difference is you come in, you voice possessing a voice acting, you know, which is a lot of fun. I enjoy it, but it's a more singular experience. You come in, you're in a booth, a little booth, and you've got the script before you, and you literally only do your lines. I had a lot on that brief animated series that Tron had was called Tron Uprising. We had a marvelous cast. Elijah Wood was the young hero. I was the older, his mentor, Tron, and it all took place marvelously stylized animation. We had just Lance Henriksen, Randy Moore, Paul Rubens. We had a wonderful big cast in it. And but I never worked with any of them. I only once worked with Elijah when we had to do sort of an audition piece for the Disney bosses because they didn't know if we would vocally be, you know, compatible, right? Thank you. I needed it. You know, I'm a little bitter about that because I think it was a good show and they just didn't know where to put it. The Disney Channel was originally, they put it in, but that was like Hannah Montana with Miley Cyrus. Sorry. These are just my opinions, folk. When I see it on YouTube, I'll regret I ever said these things, but no, I'm just kidding. But so then they had the Disney XD, and I just think they didn't have enough, they told me there weren't enough good ratings, which I find hard to believe, but anyway, they ended it in 17 episodes, and but you're pretty much the experience of making it, you're all by yourself in a booth. The director's outside, gives you a little note, you know, harsher here or lighter here, this line, and then that's it. I pretty much got to do what I wanted to do. But it was fun to see it all put together.
And is it more difficult or is it easier than to really?
It's hard to say because when you, like say I'm working with this lady here, it's a very easy experience. So, because when you're with somebody real good, that's very good, it's not real hard work, is it? It's easier to do. You know? When you're by yourself, perhaps.
Throwing it back at you. Pure pleasure working with Bruce.
Yeah, we did have a good time on that. We did. And I think because of it, it's a solitary experience. Yeah, maybe it is more difficult. You might have a point there, I think.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome. It says here we have 20 minutes left. Can you endure 20 more minutes? Because we could all go have lunch. It's on me, okay? Just tell them at the hotel Bruce Boxleitner's buying, okay? No. Who's next?
Hello Bruce, hello Mira, how are you today?
We're very good, thank you.
But I'm müde. Sehr müde.
My question goes to Bruce. Bruce, I loved you as Lee Stetson. You were my favorite. And I wanted to know, after the last season, Scarecrow with Mrs. King, Moment. I'm nervous. If there was planned another season, because it has, in my opinion, an open end at the last season.
I understand that, and unfortunately my co-star Kay Jackson became ill.
Oh, okay,
and maybe that's not well known. I think
Yes.
it's okay, it's been 35 years since then.
Yes.
But she had gotten breast cancer. And it's a very different attitude towards that today than it was then. It couldn't be announced. We had these major stars. AIDS was starting to happen then, and the people were very frightened. And but cancer as well. We still haven't conquered cancer, have we? We've certainly gotten great strides to keeping people alive longer. But I want to tell you something. Today, people wear it as a badge of honor. When you're a cancer survivor, in 1982, it was the end of your career. No one would hire you.
Really?
Yeah. It was 87, that's what it was. But yeah, it was like the death of your career. And Katie went through a lot of chemotherapy and stuff like that. It was a bad year for both of us. I mean, certainly more so than her. Her more so than me. But yeah, the show went off. We were doing so well, and when she was diagnosed with that, she couldn't keep up. You know, she was such a high energy actress, you know, and that's what we had great energy together, and it was very hard for her to do that, and chemotherapy as well. So the strange thing is that today someone would say, well, here's the deal. Your co-star has cancer. I only wish I'd have known. I was left with an absolute blank. You know what I'm saying? I had no idea what was wrong. They did not tell us. Suddenly Kate disappeared. And Martha Smith, who had played the other agents, she kind of had to step in. And then Kate came back and did, from Mrs. King's house on her sofa, she did phone calls to me. We wrote those in, but basically they said we're going to have to end the series. And we were on only 4 years, and I believe we would have kept going, but God bless her, you know, she couldn't keep it up. I don't blame her. And I talked to her about 10 years ago. I have not seen her since 1987, physically, but I did talk to her. She called me out of the blue, you know, got my number, and she used to call me Big Fella. Hey, Big Fella, it's Kate. And I just damn near about fell down and cried, because I thought she was, for some, we never had a closure about it. And then in the studio, Warner Brothers would not tell us what happened, like I said. And it became very hush-hush. And I respect that for her own privacy, for her own dignity, you know, because what happens in television is that it gets splashed all over the magazines and over the media, and they make so much out of it. She was a very private person to begin with, so I respect that about her. And I love her dearly, and it was so good to talk to her, and it was like, when I talked to her, I called her, when she called me, it was like 10, 15 years had never happened. It was like I just saw her last week, and we were going to start a new episode, so, but
Is she okay now?
I guess, yeah, I mean, I guess, but you know, she went through the double mastectomy and the whole thing, and then she had some heart trouble. I don't know any more than that. I only know I'm often shy about those things because I believe in a person's right to their own dignity, and if they don't want it known, then I respect that.
Thanks a lot for answering my question.
You're welcome.
See you later on the autograph session.
Okay, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you. All right. Okay.
Well, that's right. I watched Babylon 5 in the 90s on German television, and it was dubbed in German. you, Bruce, had the same voice as on the Scarecrow and Mrs. Kitten, so that was not much of a change. And you, Mira, had the same voice as Stephanie Powers on Heart to Heart. So that fit as well some way. And later I got it on DVD and noticed that the alien ambassadors, you and Andreas and Chika and Londo, that you had East European or Southeast European accents. Do you know if that was intention by the producers, or was it just because of the casting of you three actors?
I don't think that Andreas Katsoulis' accent was Eastern European. But you know, mine certainly was. But Peter Jurczyk, you know, made it up. I mean, that's how he imagined the character. I can't really. Was it deliberate? Was it thought through? In any way? Yeah, that's an interesting question. Yes.
I thought you might know. Thank you.
Hello, this is from Mira Furlan. I saw your yesterday, and you told us about applying for acting class without telling your parents.
Not class, academy.
Academy,
Right.
sorry. And the time was over yesterday, so I can't ask. But I wondered what your parents said when you told them. And I ask as a mother of an 18-year-old young man whose second best mark is in acting class now.
Well, right. I mean, I had the most supportive and the most liberal parents imaginable. I mean, my father was a child psychologist who adored Dr. Spock, for example, you know, completely, you know, the child, and I was an only child, the child as the center of attention, whatever the child wants, whatever, you know, it's all, we're going to support any decision. My mother was a huge theater lover, how would I say, enthusiast, right? And the literature, I mean, she was a literature major, she worked as a librarian, she organized these, she would invite the best actors in the country to read to the children, right? So there was this whole cultural atmosphere in which I grew up. But my mother said to me, Mira, be careful. You're young and pretty now. And that won't last. You know, and look around you. I mean, she would always say that while I was a student already at the academy. And she said, you know, look at these fabulous actresses. We had some really outstanding, phenomenal actresses who don't work in their older years. And she always told me, you know, you need something that will take you throughout the whole life, you know, where you would get better and not worse, you know, and where you would gather strength, not lose it, which is kind of a little bit what happens with India profession. I don't know if you would, you know, yeah, you know. So, you know, if you're a doctor, you know, I don't know, or anything, a scientist, I mean, you know, you know, you grow. In this profession, very few people are given that chance to really grow.
Yeah, I
You're
think
diminished by age.
Well, let's face it. I mean, in a lot of society, there's one of the many isms is ageism,
Right, ageism.
And
absolutely.
our business
is
has
incredibly
that-
ageist.
And the actresses, the women in our industry suffer this the most, always have.
Absolutely.
You know?
The criteria to be a woman in this profession is an
Yeah.
all different game, you know, that you might not want to play, and then what happens? So, you know, she was very wise, but of course, you know, the pool for me was such that there was nothing to say. You know, nobody was fighting my wishes and I was incredibly enthusiastic, and I worked very hard, and I was very, 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 you know, this ambition was so forceful that nobody would say, you know, don't do it. And even if they did, it wouldn't, you know, I would do what I wanted to do.
May I ask a question about, you have a son or daughter?
Son.
A daughter?
Son.
Son?
Okay, better. A little bit easier.
Well, my mother went through some, I'm sure my young parents at the time, mine didn't have any theatrical experience or anything like that. I know my father was an accountant, and he was always worried you're going to starve to death. But I'm so glad, like yours, they were totally supportive, and taught me to be supportive of my own sons, of what they want to do. You can't live your children's life forever. And it's hard because we sit and watch them make mistakes. They have to do that, that's part of life. So. But mine are all in show business too. You know, it's a tough road. Tough.
Thanks. Question to Mira. What have you done after you finished Babylon 5? I know you made Lost, and a few minutes ago you told that you made scripts. Did you play theater, or do you...
I did many things. You know, I went back to Europe. I did, I shot a couple of films. One of them was shot by Oscar winner, Danny Stanovich. He got an Oscar for his incredibly wonderful movie, No Man's Land. So I shot the next movie with him. It's called Circus Columbia, and I starred in it with one of the best actors. Oh, that was funny. I wrote a play that became a hit. You don't know that. About my family, about my mother who was sick, cancer, my growing up, and so on and so forth. I did 2 plays. I did a couple of movies in Boston. I did 2 projects in Turkey. I went around. After Lost, which wasn't such a great experience for me, I wanted to I wanted to continue loving this profession. And in order to do that, I had to leave the United States of America. I wanted a different experience. I wanted a different feel, and I got that to a certain point. I made a movie in Romania, 2 projects in Turkey, which one of them was really interesting. Directed by 7 European directors, set in Istanbul and so on. I had interesting experiences. I went back to Croatia to do 2 plays. I did Bergman's Autumn Sonata. I played the role of Ingrid Bergman in that movie. And I wrote a lot. I've been writing a lot. I don't know exactly what I'm gonna do with all that, but it's a big deal to kind of come out with your story, and I'm torn about it. But I'm working on a project and a couple of scripts that I wrote. I don't have any producing talents, unfortunately, and it really doesn't interest me. And in this world, as you know, Bruce, you have to do it from the beginning to the end. Otherwise, nothing happens, So, but I don't know. I feel that I grew, let's use that word, that term, in a different way, and it's writing saved me, from I don't know, despair about profession, about this profession. As my mother used to warn, but I didn't listen. So there's been a lot of stuff going on. I was a recurring role for 3 years on an Amazon series called Just Add Magic. I played a woman who doesn't age. Yeah, everybody in the series aged, except for me. I would always come into these different kids, you know, and anyway, so stuff, you know. I did stuff. Let it be really good.
Last question, please.
Hi. I have a question for Mr. Boxleitner. Since you're an actor for over 30 to 40 years, what's the biggest difference of making movies 30 to 40 years ago and nowadays?
Well, the acting is the same. I don't think that ever changes. It's still the same process that Mira and I go through, no matter what role we play next, lead or just a small role. It's the same process. It's faster now. The equipment, it's all being driven by the technology now. And, you know, I was saying yesterday in my panel about we had these big canisters of film. Now it's all done on digital, and so there's no cut. Just keep going. Do it over again, and you go right back into the thing. I believe that's what it is to make a short answer. It's the technology that's different. The cameras we use, there's more green screen being used today. It's more economical, but sometimes it feels cheap. I don't know. I think that's got to be it. The technology has changed it. It moves much quicker now. You know, there are many directors of photography that long for the old days of film because it was for them, men and women who painted that picture on the screen. It was much of a richer palette for them. You know, in the older films, the colors, the blending, the tone. But now, it's like you can reach right in, like you can step into that world, right? The digital world. And you can blame that on Tron as well. Because we kind of started that with CGI. But I think that's the only way I could answer it. It's still the same old acting. You still have to get up there and the camera's got to be on you and you got to look the other actor in the eye and tell them the truth.
Okay.
So we are at the end of this part of the FedCon. Oh man, this hour did not feel like 60 minutes. It was much shorter. Thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.